They told you God was somewhere far away, didn't they? Watching, judging, deciding your fate. But what if that was the biggest lie ever sold? What if the power you've been praying to has been inside you all along? Look around. Most people live as if they're powerless, waiting for miracles, begging for change. And that's exactly why they stay stuck. Because the truth is unsettling. You are the creator of your reality. Every success, every failure, every so-called coincidence, it's all coming from you. Sounds crazy? Good. That means your mind is cracking open. The question isn't whether you have this power, it's whether you'll wake up to it. The moment you do, everything shifts. Obstacles dissolve, manifestation speeds up, life bends to your will. But first, you must break free from the illusion of limitation, because until you do, you'll keep living like a beggar, when in reality, you were born a god, ready to remember who you are. Let's go. 1. The illusion of separation and the dream of reality. Most people live trapped in a story, a carefully crafted illusion where everything appears separate. It feels real, but it's just a projection. Like watching a movie without realizing you're the one writing the script. Look around. Every struggle, every conflict, every limitation is the result of a belief in duality, the idea that you and the world are separate. But what if that's not true? What if what you see outside is nothing more than the mirror of what's happening inside? The moment this awareness kicks in, the game changes. Think about relationships. Ever noticed how the same type of people keep showing up in your life? Bosses who don't respect you, partners who abandon you, or friends who betray you. That's not random. It's your own unconscious patterns playing out. The world doesn't act on you. It acts through you. If you keep seeing rejection, maybe it's because deep down you expect it. The illusion makes it seem like life is happening to you, but the truth, you're the one creating it. Even money follows this law. Some think wealth is about luck, hard work, or strategy. But ever met someone who's always broke no matter how much they earn? That's because their inner world is wired for scarcity. The illusion keeps them running in circles, thinking the problem is out there. In reality, their mind is projecting lack onto the world, and the world simply reflects it back. Until they shift that perception, nothing changes. Breaking this illusion isn't about fixing the external world, it's about waking up. It starts with awareness, observing without reacting. Notice the patterns, the repetitive cycles, the emotions that rise when life doesn't go your way. What if, instead of blaming the world, you saw every experience as a message from your own consciousness? That shift alone cracks the illusion, and once it cracks, something incredible happens. You realize you're not just the observer, you're the creator. 2. The power of absolute responsibility. Most people hear responsibility and think of blame, but this isn't about fault, it's about power. The moment you accept that nothing happens to you, only from you, you stop playing victim and start creating. It's uncomfortable at first. The mind resists. But what about that betrayal, that accident, that failure? Yet, the truth doesn't change. Everything, good or bad, came through your own energy, your beliefs, your state of being. That realization, it's the doorway to ultimate freedom. Take health, for example. Some people think illness just happens, i.e. genetics, bad luck, circumstances beyond control. But why do some with bad genes stay healthy while others with no history of disease fall apart? The mind, the emotions, the unhealed wounds, these shape the body. Stress, resentment, suppressed emotions, they manifest as sickness. When someone takes absolute responsibility, they stop waiting for doctors or medicine to fix them and start shifting their own internal state. That's where real healing begins. Relationships follow the same rule. If someone keeps attracting toxic partners, they can blame bad luck forever, or they can look within. Why is this pattern showing up? What belief is fueling it? The moment they stop seeing themselves as victims of love and start owning their energy, they shift. They become the kind of person who naturally attracts respect, devotion, and depth. Responsibility isn't about control, it's about alignment. And when it comes to success, the principle is even clearer. Some work their whole lives and stay stuck. Others rise effortlessly. Why? Because the first group thinks success is something to chase, while the second group realizes it's something they embody. When someone owns their reality, they stop hoping for better results and start becoming the kind of person who naturally creates them. The victim mindset dissolves, and what's left? Pure, unstoppable creation. And here's where things get even deeper, because the real prison isn't external, it's the mind. 3. The prison of the mind, breaking free from beliefs. The greatest prison isn't made of walls, it's made of thoughts. From childhood, people are programmed with beliefs that shape their entire reality. Money is hard to earn. I'm not good enough. Life is a struggle. These invisible chains dictate how someone sees the world, reacts to challenges, and even limits their own potential. And the worst part? Most don't even realize they're trapped. They think they're making free choices, but in reality, they're just following a script written long ago. Look at fear. Someone wants to start a business, but deep inside, a voice whispers, "You'll fail." Where does that voice come from? Maybe a teacher who once said they weren't smart enough. Maybe a parent who struggled financially. That belief, buried in the subconscious, now runs the show. So they hesitate, procrastinate, and eventually give up, never realizing the obstacle wasn't the business itself, but the belief they never questioned. The mind created the cage, and they lived inside it. Even emotions follow this pattern. A person who was abandoned as a child might develop a belief, "People always leave." As an adult, that belief shapes every relationship. They get anxious, clingy, or push people away before they can leave first. And what happens? The cycle repeats. They blame bad luck, not realizing they're the ones recreating the same pain over and over. The only way out? Awareness. Recognizing the pattern, questioning the belief, and choosing a different reality. So how does someone break free? First, they have to see the prison. Pay attention to the automatic reactions, the repeated struggles, the patterns that seem to just happen. Then, question everything. Is this belief really true, or is it just something I've accepted? Finally, act in opposition to the old programming. If the mind says you can't, do it anyway. The more someone challenges the illusion, the weaker it gets. And once the mind stops being the master, something incredible happens. The real power takes over. 4. Silence and inner mastery. The key to your divine power. Most people fear silence. They drown it out with distractions, music, social media, endless conversations, because in silence, the truth surfaces. And that truth, it reveals who they really are, beyond the mind, beyond the illusion. The present moment is the doorway to mastery, but few ever step through. Why? Because the mind craves noise. It wants to analyze, plan, and obsess. But the real power isn't in thinking, it's in awareness. And silence is the fastest way to access it. Take meditation. Some think it's about sitting quietly and trying not to think, but true meditation is watching the mind without identifying with it. It's the ability to observe thoughts without getting lost in them. Imagine sitting by a river, watching leaves float by. That's how thoughts should be, passing, temporary, insignificant. But most people, they grab onto every leaf, analyzing it, drowning in it. The moment someone learns to let thoughts pass, they stop being controlled by them. Silence also exposes inner resistance. Ever tried sitting in stillness for 5 minutes? The mind immediately panics. This is boring. I should be doing something. That's the ego fighting for control. But the more someone leans into silence, the more they realize they are not the mind. They are the awareness watching it. And from that awareness, a new power emerges. a presence so strong, so unshakable, that external chaos no longer disturbs them. They become the calm in the storm. And here's where it gets interesting. The deeper someone sinks into silence, the more they tap into something beyond themselves. Intuition sharpens, clarity increases, answers arrive without effort. This is why the most powerful beings on the planet, spiritual leaders, visionaries, creators, prioritize silence. It's not just a practice, it's a portal. And once someone steps through, they don't just awaken. They start to shape reality itself. Because awareness isn't passive, it's creative. It's the force that turns thoughts into form. 5. The observer and the observed, how awareness creates reality. Most people think reality is something fixed, something out there. But quantum physics and ancient wisdom say otherwise. The world doesn't exist independently of the observer. It responds to perception, expectation, and state of being. Change the way you see reality, and reality itself changes. This isn't philosophy. It's law. Every person walks through life seeing only what they believe is possible, and because they believe it, they experience it. The illusion reinforces itself until awareness breaks the cycle. Ever noticed how two people can live the same event but walk away with completely different experiences? A man gets fired. One version of him spirals into self-pity, believing life is unfair. Another version sees it as an opportunity, a push towards something greater. Same event, different observer. And because their perception differs, their future unfolds differently. The first stays stuck in struggle, while the second attracts new opportunities effortlessly. The only thing that changed? Awareness. This applies to health, relationships, success, everything. A person who sees themselves as weak, unlucky, or unworthy will unconsciously shape experiences that confirm it. Not because life is against them, but because they are the observer setting the rules. Shift the observation and everything realigns. Instead of looking for proof of failure, start looking for evidence of power. Instead of expecting rejection, expect connection. Awareness isn't just noticing, it's directing. And what you direct, you create. So here's the key. Stop living as the unconscious observer and start observing with intention. Before reacting, pause. Before assuming, question. Before fearing, choose a new focus. What would happen if, for one day, you only looked for signs that life was working in your favor? The shift would be instant. Reality doesn't change first, perception does. And when that clicks, the old limitations start to dissolve. Because if observation shapes reality, then fear is just a false creation. And what happens when you stop feeding fear? The entire illusion of limitation collapses. 6. The quantum leap to awakening. Transcending fear and limitation. Most people change gradually, taking slow, careful steps toward a better life. But real transformation? It happens in an instant. A quantum leap isn't about working harder, it's about collapsing timelines, stepping into a new state of being before the external world catches up. The problem, fear keeps most people stuck. The mind clings to what's familiar, even if it's painful. But the moment fear is seen for what it is, just an illusion, it loses its grip. And that's when awakening happens. Think about the biggest breakthroughs in life. They never come from overthinking or playing it safe. They come from moments of total surrender, quitting the job, leaving the toxic relationship, taking the risk no one else dares to take. It's not logic that creates quantum leaps, it's courage. And courage doesn't mean waiting until fear disappears. It means acting despite it. The ones who awaken the fastest are the ones who stop negotiating with their limitations and just step into their power. But what if fear still feels real? Simple. Start proving it wrong. Fear says you'll fail, try anyway. Fear says you're not enough, show up anyway. The more you act in opposition to fear, the weaker it gets. Every time you move toward expansion instead of retreating into comfort, you shift into a new version of yourself. And suddenly, things that once felt impossible start happening effortlessly. Because quantum leaps don't follow logic, they follow alignment. And alignment isn't found in fear, it's found in trust. This is why the greatest creators move fast. They don't wait for the perfect moment, they decide. They don't let circumstances dictate their power, they embody it. And the instant they make that shift, the world rearranges itself to match. If someone waits for external proof before believing in their potential, they'll wait forever. But if they choose to believe first, reality bends to reflect that choice. And when that realization hits, something even bigger unfolds. The realization that they were never human consciousness trapped in limitation. They were always something more, something divine. 7. Living as a god on earth, embodying your limitless nature. Most people live as if they're powerless, waiting for something outside of them to grant permission to be great. But the truth? No one is coming to save them because they were never meant to be saved. They were meant to awaken. Living as a god on earth isn't about arrogance or control. It's about embodying the awareness that nothing is separate. The same force that moves the stars flows through every human being. The only difference between those who tap into it and those who don't? Perception. Think about those who seem to move through life effortlessly. Leaders, visionaries, creators. They don't beg for success. They don't hope for change. They decide. They walk as if the universe bends to their will, not because they're lucky, but because they know it does. They expect things to align, and so they do. This isn't magic. It's awareness in action. The problem is, most people still operate from human consciousness, seeing themselves as small, separate, and powerless. But the moment that illusion shatters, life transforms. How does someone shift from human limitation to divine embodiment? By acting as if it were already true. Speak with certainty, move with conviction, stop explaining, justifying, and doubting. Gods don't negotiate with fear. They don't shrink for the comfort of others. They create, they command, they trust. And the more someone embodies this, the more their external world adjusts to match it. Not because they forced reality to change, but because they stopped aligning with the version of themselves that played small. And here's the real secret. This power was never missing. It was only forgotten. Every great master, every awakened being, every person who has ever lived in complete alignment has said the same thing. The power is within. The question is, will you remember it? Will you dare to live as if you are the creator, not the victim? Because the moment you do, the game changes forever. And once the game changes, there's no going back.